Welcome to the Association of Applied and Therapeutic Humor podcast, Laughbox. We have multiple hosts and multiple guests and multiple ways to think out of the box using humor.
Laughbox is a production of the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. Visit us online at www.aath.org. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Music by Gary Rubio. For more information, www.garyrubiomusic.com.
Join us for episode 100 with Jim Bob Williams, Katie B, and our returning special guest, Izzy Gesell. Yay! 2, 1.
Welcome to Laughbox, the official podcast of the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. I'm Jim Bob Williams.
And I'm Katie B.
And we are here with our special guest, Izzy Gesell.
Yeah.
Yay! Some of you may remember Izzy from the episode 27 of Laughbox, where he appeared with Chip Lutz. But that was, oh my goodness, that was November 2017. That's 3 BC, right? 3 years before COVID.
Nice.
So we thought it was a time to refresh the information because Izzy's into a lot of good and groundbreaking stuff. And this is, Katie, you have to realize this is a very important holiday for me and Izzy. Okay, because we both grew up in Brooklyn, and it's Henny Youngman's birthday. So
yes, and I honor that important day that today is, and am honored to be on here with you both.
If I will jump in for a quick, one of the Henny Youngman's jokes is a joke I use when I teach about humor and comedy writing, about how the ability to shift people's perspective is used, and one of his jokes is the one I use. Would you like to hear it?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I went to the racetrack, and the horse I bet on was so slow the jockey kept a diary of the trip.
So good. And so, Izzy, will you please tell us an updated version of yourself for today, 5 years later, 6 years later than your last podcast interview?
Well, nothing much has changed. I got up a couple of days. I had the COVID thing. When in the last 6 years, I've gone from being mostly a keynote speaker and a facilitator to now a facilitator and keynote speaker on Zoom. What really has occupied my interest is the evolution of the application of improv and humor principles into daily life. COVID was a boom for us in that we had to recognize that you have to deal with what you get, which is one of the main focuses of humor. You know, I mean, those of us who work with helping people expand their sense of humor understand that it's really just about pay attention to what's going on and then look at it from different points of view. In improv, and what's boomed is this field called applied improv, which is the application of improv theater principles to daily living, dealing with the unexpected, acceptance versus agreement, being able to get along with other people, laughing at difficult situations, taking yourself seriously and yourself lightly, playfulness, all of those things. So that's really what I've been up to, working on writing and developing some games. And the nice thing is that Zoom has connected me with people all around the world. So we have some humor and play partners in all different time zones. The following has come, I believe, from my focus on developing a community of practice, giving people ideas about how to apply the things that we talked about, improv and humor, for their own personal development and their own connection to others. And it just attracted people who, I work with the soft skills. And the nice thing about my work is I don't have a particular niche or job category that if it's human, I've worked it. So I've done engineers. I just did yesterday auditors. Next week, I'm going to be doing hospital employees. And I think, Jim Bob, what I realized is that because I believe this is my mission and my purpose, and I'm having a good time doing it, and I'm interested in the how it works piece for my own self and self-development, I think that it just attracts people who want to be around this idea and to be able to use it. It's the same, I would just say it's the same way with AATH that attracts people who understand, if they don't understand right away, that humor is not just about joke telling, that it's really a way of being. And I think that's what this combination of the work that I do attracts, a new way of being. Improv is all about restrictions, two-word games and so forth. So the gift of restriction is creativity. So auditors are always restricted. They're restricted by budgetary, they're restricted by legal, they're restricted by silos in the different companies. So how do they manage to both stay grounded and real, and yet flexible enough to deal with, sometimes they're high status, people come to them, they have to have some money available. Sometimes they're low status, they're not the mayor, they're not elected. So that's an improv lesson, as you learn. Improv is always about the balance between following and leading. When it's your turn, you're the leader. Everybody has to go along with what you say. When it's somebody else's turn, you're the follower. You have to go along with what they say. And that balance is very difficult. But once you understand how to do it, and yes and is one way to do that, then you're able to stay balanced in an unbalanced world. That's what that's what I offer them.
Oh, that's beautiful. I was an environmental compliance auditor, and I found that when I walked into the room as the auditor, sometimes I had high status because the grade I gave might determine somebody's bonus for that year, if I'm sorry. So I'd always try to start off with a joke, try to hit them out of left field, try to put some incongruity in there. Says, yes, we're here for a very serious topic, to review the records to determine if we're in compliance. But that doesn't mean we can't have fun while we're doing it.
Yeah.
No. We can laugh at the situation without laughing at individuals.
Exactly. And that humanizes you, which makes a better chance at having a relationship where they understand your professionalism and don't blame you. He's just the messenger. There is a reality about shooting the messenger, because they're the closest to the bad news. So you're right. Yeah, starting with lightening up the audience or lightening up the atmosphere. It's really about, both humor and improv are about energy management. It's very much about, so when you're walking in, Jim Bob, as the auditor, people are afraid because they know they're not perfect. They may have made mistakes, or they're afraid that they didn't comply exactly right. So they're tense and tight. The laughter releases the tension, which right away makes them more open to curiosity. Okay, I'm still afraid, but let me see. Maybe I don't need to be afraid of everything, because this guy seems to be okay.
I see that you have written a book, and one of my questions is, do you have a new book out? But I see a book, The Resilient Caregiver.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit about that.
Yeah. To answer the previous question, I do have a new book out, which The Resilient Caregiver comes from, I think the subtitle is The Importance of Humor and Play for Caregivers. I'm a cancer survivor. What I realized, I think in my blurb, I said once I got cancer as a humorist, I was sort of forced to take my own advice by telling everybody, you look at the humor in any situation. One of the things I realized as I began doing cancer survivor programs, which I still do, was that a lot of energy, money, and focus is on the medical side, the people who are sick. Not a lot, if any, not a lot is given to the caregivers. And my concept was that cancer affects everybody. And the cancer centers will have social workers, and they'll have a room where you can go and read and video and have some support groups. but there's not a lot of ongoing training to this is going to change your whole life. And because most of the caregivers in my experience have been female women, there's more of a tendency to accept that role as without question. So part of my mission really became to encourage people to understand how to bring in lightness into the darkness that is the cancer diagnosis. And so the book is about resilience, that humor, the skills of humor, how humor works, how to bring humor out. I developed a humor profile that I have people to pay attention to if they wanted to. What did you laugh at when you were younger? Was there a time when you were sad and somebody made you happy? Was there a time that someone else was sad, you made them happy? Um, how do you evidence your sense of humor without saying anything, which is about wearing maybe a pin or a quote on your desk or in the house. So the resilient caregiver is a push towards having caregivers recognize the skill of humor is attainable, and the implementation of humor into their life is a benefit to everybody.
That's beautiful, and congratulations for being a survivor. Thank you
20 years.
for being here.
Yeah, thanks.
And so what is your new book?
The new book is called Instructional Moments: Using Applied Improv for Facilitation. So it's a small book. It's 10 games, and it's a little bit of a background in what applied improv is, and instructions and debrief questions for 10 games. So whether you run a team, a group, a scout troop, a church organization, these are 10 quick games anybody can play. And the option is for some questions that if you want to go deeper into it, because again, the way people play is the way they are in real life. So you can help people recognize their behavior by having them observe how they play.
Sounds great.
Okay, so when did you know that you were going to make humor a part of your life?
I was a special ed teacher in New York, and then but I wanted to be a stand-up comic, so I went to the New School in New York and studied comedy writing, which is not that different than being a special ed teacher. Stand-up comedy and teaching are very similar. They're both individuals on a platform, a stage, a floor, trying to hold the attention of multiple levels of interest for people who don't necessarily want to be there, and who have an antagonistic / connective approach to you. It's almost like you're humorous. If you come to a conference and you're the speaker, chances are very likely that somebody's going to come up to you and say, "You're the humorist. You better be funny." Because once you say you're funny or you're touted as humorous, people expect stuff. So what happened when I was studying comedy writing was I began to, for some reason, understand why comedy was so important in not only in entertainment but in the world. Jokes at serious situations, relationships, workplace. It's really about that energy between people. Laughing is a key part of a relationship. Laughing at the wrong place makes you a bad person because that your timing is off. So I really got into it as a topic, and I studied it. I looked at the history of it. All cultures have some form of fool, jester, clown, coyote, trickster, name it. There's a need in society for someone to tell truth to power, or recognize the truth we are afraid of. This is The Emperor Has No Clothes is an example of that. Humor is a broader example of that.
Absolutely. And I have to just pipe in just for a second and say I'm a professional clown, and my clown is based on the Hopi native tradition of what a clown does. So thanks for bringing that up. I appreciate that. Jim Bob, you got another question?
I'll just, for full disclosure, I want to point out I met Izzy during COVID. Saw your presentation to the Applied Improvisation Network on your prostate cancer, experience. And it
Oh,
came
yeah.
just at a time when I had been recently diagnosed. All right. And you have helped me reframe the situation.
Oh, that makes me feel good. Thanks,
That's a,
Jimbo.
so, and you, the thing that amazes me about you when I look at some of the work in some of your presentations programs, you're terrific at synthesizing, seeing the commonalities and different endeavors, bringing them together into one coherent whole there. So, so what you've spoken on a number of controversial topics too. Right? So, tell us about sex.
About sex?
Yeah.
I can tell you about intimacy.
Okay.
And I do have a program. I think the reason I said I did put together a program for couples many years ago called Intimate Improv for Lovers. And the 12 people who came thought it was about sex techniques. What I've done for relationships is really to see romance and sensuality and relationships as a creative art. So if you think about things like role playing, if you think about make believe fantasy, if you think about let's try this, these are all improv ideas. The challenge is that that it's hard to ask for something in an intimate situation, and it's also hard to receive an answer you don't want or expect. So if you say, hey, let's try this, and they go, oh no, shut down. So if you can develop, if you play improv games regularly, you can learn to be able to and to not deflect, but necessarily to change the impact. In the same way that if you go to relationship counseling, chances are you will be told, if you have a difference of opinion, before you launch into here's why you're wrong and I'm right, do something like, is this a good time to talk because I have a serious subject? And if the person says yes, you can do it. If they say no, okay, let's reschedule. So essentially what that is a consent question. Improv is all about consent. The yes and is a consent to accept what you're given and build. So in sex, it's a consent thing where I want to do this with you. Do you want to do this with me? And if I'm doing something that you think I'm going to be doing, but I'm not doing, let me know. So there's something in the improv piece that allows for both vulnerability and curiosity. So and then the idea is about role playing. If you think, oh, I don't want to do that, that's yucky, because what if I can't do it? What if I am embarrassed? Those are the same questions people ask about improv. I'm not going to volunteer because what if I can't do it? What if I'm embarrassed by my thing? So you develop an ability to step up authentically and not have to be perfect. Working together, that opens up a lot. And one of my prostate programs was for couples who have had to move beyond erection dependent sex. 15, 20 years ago, I was writing a blog for a while called Sexual Abundance, Moving Beyond Erection Dependent Sex, which was for originally for couples, but I learned a lot about let's say the who blames who for what when it comes to things like that. So I think the improv piece as well as the humor piece, there's a different, with the Woody Allen joke, the best form of birth control is for a female to look at a naked male and go so it's laughter birth control by pointing at it for the radio viewers. The idea is that the laughter, if you can laugh together at a misstep, at a fumble, if you can laugh at your imperfections, then you have a stronger relationship. And that means that you're willing to take some risks and be vulnerable about that. And then the final piece I would just say in terms of this, the romance, the sexuality, you're much more open to try stuff. And there's so much available knowledge and information that about toys and techniques and tools. it's really the hard part is getting over your defensiveness and your fear of being imperfect, and doing that together through improv builds that character.
Yeah, curiosity, I think, is a key word for just about any life issue. You know, if we can stay curious,
Steve
Steve
Jobs.
Jobs.
Steve Jobs said, stay curious. And to me, that's just the biggest life lesson in the world. The elephant in the room is laughter.
Yes.
I'd love to hear about it.
Elephant in a Room is Laughing is the name of my program about humor in the workplace. So the idea of that program is to teach people the many ways that humor exists in an organization, in relationships, and the many ways that people use it. So the angry people use sarcasm. That's the weapon. The unconfident, introverted people might use self-deprecating humor to shield themselves and keep them away. The positive people will use the connective humor to reach out in relationships and laugh together. You build format even within an organization. If we're on a team and we know there's some silly thing going on, we're laughing together. But if the boss comes into the room, we'll stop laughing because there's a recognition that they see things differently. And then there's the person in the organization who's always making wisecracks or jokes as a deflector. You can't be serious with this person because they don't take anything seriously. And they go, oh, I was just kidding. Well, just kidding doesn't mean I didn't mean what I said, or just kidding doesn't mean that I don't have an ulterior motive. So that's the essence of the elephant in the room is laughing, to get people to understand that there's all kinds of humor. And that the targeted humor, what we're going through now these days, is very much related to who's the target and what happens when you do target someone. And we're in a situation in the world where sometimes you're a little too defensive, and sometimes you're not defensive enough. And the point is, if you understand humor, if you understand the many intricacies that it plays in the society that is your family or your government, you can say, like we this is something that came up many years ago. It was always the fault of the target and who didn't get it. People would say, oh, I was just kidding. She doesn't have a sense of humor. Now that's changed, where many organizations will have an ouch button. If anyone says something that is painful or hurtful, or we have the cultural agreement to say ouch, and say, okay, I didn't mean to offend, but I get it that you're offended. I'll cut off. So that comes from understanding how humor impacts people, not just how it makes people laugh. And we're almost on the other side now because of the world that we live in, because people are so separated and so narrow in their what's good, what's bad, that things that humor, which has always been a victim of rigid thinking, that's what we have now. If you look at the countries and the world where humor is can be a life-threatening concept for you, and here it could certainly be a career wrecking concept for you, or certainly a friendship wrecking concept. So I think we're sort of at the other side, and there's no simple answer. But recognizing what humor is for you, and that it has many levels. So it's, I think the work that AATH does and I do and the people like us is very important.
What about your program, Becoming Lighthearted? How has that changed before, during, and after COVID, if at all?
More people are open to it because they're so oppressed by the fact that nobody knows what the heck's going on. Nobody knows. The government doesn't know. The scientists don't know. Your neighbor doesn't know. Of course, the guy down the road knows because he saw it on Facebook, but nobody else knows. You know, so there's I think a closer understanding that humor has the survival instinct, the survival thing for us. Look, we have to make these life-threatening decisions, about vaccination, not vaccination, going to the party, not going to the party, being stuck here, trying to relate to my family that I used to get at least 8 hours away from it every day. Humor can help me, help me regain balance, can help me release tension, the physicality, the impossibility of laughter and tension to exist in your body at the same time is a key COVID learning. And the laughter yoga people know, that you can stand in front of a mirror and just laugh for no reason. Your body thinks it's funny, and you just release that tension. So I think people are more connected to it, and they also recognize that even in the midst of more recognition in the midst of serious situations, a lightheartedness doesn't mean a disrespect.
How does becoming lighthearted and laughing in the mirror translate to someone dealing with cancer today?
When you're worried about what the tests are going to say, or what the doctor's going to say, or you're going to have to go through a procedure and it's going to be difficult, you have no control over that. What you have control over is the next minute, the next 2 minutes. So you can stand in front of the mirror and close your eyes and think of something that really brings you joy. It could be a person, it could be a situation, it could be a memory, because to your memory, an emotion is as real as the actual event. So if you remember a happy time, you can just think back there, close your eyes, and you're back there for a minute. And the fact that the tension goes out of your body means that you then have the question, this is the point of becoming lighthearted. Stress is a very narrowing mindset. You're trying to fix something. What humor allows you to do is release the tension, so you can ask the key question, what can I do about this right now? What is it within my power? So maybe it's going to eat ice cream. Maybe it's reading a positive psychology book. Martin Seligman, I always expect the best possible outcome until you hear differently. What's the best possible outcome? The best possible outcome is that I'm going, in 6 weeks, I'm going to be able to not come here anymore. So it's really about, it's a neuroplasticity aspect of changing your brain waves.
Thank you. And one more question is, when you're looking at logic and the science and the reality of what you're dealing with in the situation, is adding humor and taking a minute to laugh and going and getting ice cream diminishing the logic, diminishing that reality? What's happening there? And
You're functioning as an Aikido warrior. You are using the energy that's coming towards you. Instead of fighting it or denying it, you are dancing with it. You're surfing with it. The analogy I use sometimes is that the negativity, the cancer or the COVID or the breakup of the relationship is the big wave, the tsunami, and you can ride it, and you can, humor is one way to ride it until you, again, this may seem bad now, but we'll be able to laugh about this later on. We instinctively know that perspective gives us a different emotion. And so at that moment, we're changing our emotions from fear to joy. And then that has a body effect and a brain effect and a heart effect. And that gives us an option to make other choices. They may not be easy choices, but at least we have a choice.
thank you so much. That's amazing information. Jim Bob?
Well, I think indirectly you've already answered the question that I'm about to ask, but this is a question that the listeners of the podcast will have heard before. And I also use this in other venues. What's the one thing you want people to remember about what you teach or facilitate? What's the one thing you want them to remember on Thursday? I mean, we go to a conference, we get all hyped up, excited about an idea or whatnot. And then sometimes you get lost in the tangle of what's happening in the week, and it's Thursday. Okay. What do you want people to remember then?
Friday will always come. but but what I'd like them to remember from the experience is that the way they're thinking and being right now has alternatives, and to try something playful or humorous that has already happened to them. They don't have to make anything up. They don't have to be any more creative. They have that choice. So preparation, start preparing for the times you're not feeling that good, so that you can go to the symbol, the memento, the song, the movie. I have an activity that I'll share with you and the listeners that I'm going to ask you, close your eyes, and this is going to take 15 seconds. What are you grateful for? Just think about that to yourself. What are you grateful for? When you're ready, open your eyes and come back. Katie, you don't have to say what it was, but give us the feeling. What was the emotion that you had during those 15 seconds?
Oh, it's a closeness.
All right, closeness, intimacy. Jim Bob, what was the feeling that you had?
Well, the feeling I had was kind of like a shower. Let's say that any
Yeah.
tension I had about things that may be on my mind is kind of got rinsed away.
Yeah.
Okay. And it was difficult to pick what I was most grateful for.
Yeah. It's a multitude of riches.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the point is that this was in your mind. So to your memory, an emotion is as real as the actual event. So this is what I would like people to remember on Thursday, is that take 15 seconds, think of this question, what are you grateful for? Or take a souvenir, a memento that you have stored away that nobody's going to see until you pass on. And then your family's going to put that stuff in the driveway and try to sell it for a dime. And the next day it's going to be on the curb with the sign that says free, take this crap away. But for you, it sparks real feelings. You're very powerful in these 15 seconds. That's what I want people to remember. And this goes back to Viktor Frankl's work on some level. No matter what the situation, at some level, all humans have a choice at any moment. They may not be easy choices, but we have a choice. So you have a choice to recall something you're grateful for, something you were happy about, and bathe. I love that definition, Jim, but you bathed in that feeling. And
I'm going to give you the
that's a
title of your
real
next
feeling.
book. Yeah, okay. I think the title of your next book should be The Power of 15 Seconds.
Okay. I like it. There's the improv game called 60, 30, 15.
Yes.
Where you play out the scene 60 seconds, and then you do the same scene in 30 seconds, and then in 15 seconds, and then you go to 5 seconds. And so yes, I will take that under advisement.
What is the most important organizational alchemist thing you'd like to share with us and put out there with AATH and the world?
It's not necessary to keep looking forward to create new moments of joy, happiness, laughter, and fun. You have that in your life already. So I would challenge you to go to your attic, your basement, your garage, your souvenirs, pull out stuff. You know how on Facebook you get this thing that's 7 years ago, memento and stuff like that?
Yeah.
That's what you can do for yourself. And have those things handy. Have a picture of yourself. One of the things in the that I advocate is have a picture of yourself laughing, and so that you are visually or whatever sense you're able to do to have a connection with the joyful you. Have that ability. You can meditate and then take an extra 15 seconds, not just for what I'm grateful for, what am I joyous for? Who I love? Ask yourself these questions, and that changes your internal chemistry. So you don't have to be funnier than you are. You don't have to learn anything. You already have everything you need. It's a matter now of just putting it in practice so that you can access it.
And Izzy, how do we say yes and to ourselves?
Objective behavior, discernment, whatever you're saying to yourself, ask yourself, are you judging the behavior or are you observing it? And what choice might you make differently? And then what do you need to do to get started on that different choice. So it's a cognitive behavior approach. Cognitive is the first place. Observe, discern without judgment, or let that judgment go. We're all imperfect.
You have a BA in psychology and a master's in education and a 1/3 of a
A
PhD.
P. I have a P.
You have a P. And you were a stand-up and a public school teacher at the same time?
And they did overlap. Yeah. Yeah. I began as a teacher and didn't really think it was going to be for me. I didn't want to become an administrator, and I wanted always to be a stand-up comedian. So I studied it. So there was a time I did both. And for a while I was teaching in public school in New York. I was going to stand-up open mics, and I was teaching in Hunter College in the Graduate School of Education. And that's where I began to see the connection between humor and teaching, where teachers did the students, the graduate students who came in once a week after field work, they didn't want to know so much about teaching, but how do I get along with the students, the parents, the school board,
Yeah.
all this other stress that's going on. And that's where I began to, because I was doing the humor thing, I go, well, why don't you give your stress a name, or let's call this I hate the school board week. It's like to tell the truth. So I began to see the overlap, and also the fact that teachers are remembered for being a little larger than life.
We talked about the past, we talked a little bit about the present. What do you think the future is for humor, applied humor, therapeutic humor, improv?
The future of applied improv is large. I've just started working on some work with coaches, and I have this applied improv for coaches work that's coming out. We do a lot on LinkedIn Live, and we have a public program coming up on April 13th. So I'm one of the things that came out of COVID was that people are really in tune with the possibility of improv. That's one of the futures. And I think people understand the importance of humor, even though they may not want to do it themselves, but they understand a little more how to do it. Watch a lot of streaming, all those comedians on Netflix. It's a real gift. First of all, you get to see what bad performance is, but you also get to see some good stuff. So people are now more used to a wide variety. They didn't have that before. So for both good and bad, you're exposed to much broader range of humor.
Okay, you've done a lot on LinkedIn, and I think you are the master. You are the guru of reaching the audience through LinkedIn.
It's helped me in that I post a couple of times a week. I certainly have a regular posting time on Tuesday mornings. I think a large part of the 7,000 or so folks that I have are due to that. And I have 3 courses on LinkedIn Learning: one on humor, one on improv, and one on team building. That is a main source also of connection. But LinkedIn has been very helpful to me, forcing me to write weekly. The thing about a LinkedIn post, it's limited to 300 words. So there's a certain restriction, again, the creativity and the restriction. And that's when I've been able to write about improv and humor. A couple of weeks ago, I had 2 different consecutive posts on tips and tactics on using humor more. And they each had like 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 views, which is a lot for me. So people are interested in humor. So I'm able to spread the word. People are interested in improv because of the practicality. Most don't know how humor works. Most don't know how improv works. And when you can say to them, here's how you could use it in your life, or here's how it could help you. Oh, I didn't know that. I thought you always had to start every speech with a joke. No, you have to figure out where does humor fit in there and incorporate it. Oh, I didn't know that. So that's one of the gifts I'm getting from LinkedIn. So please join up, folks.
There you go. And
Take the humor
yeah,
course, it's worth it.
actually, oh, sorry, what'd you say, Jimbo?
I was just saying, Izzy has a course on humor at work. Take it. It's great stuff.
And why don't we get your social media info and website info since we're talking about that? Can you list off how to find you?
izzyg.com, izzyg.com is the website. LinkedIn is my name, Izzy Gesell, Gesell, as you will see. I'm starting to get a little more active in Twitter. It's at Improv Izzy, and I think the other ones are just are my name. But LinkedIn and Twitter, because when you post on LinkedIn, it goes on Twitter automatically. Those are the two. And I would love, if people are interested, I do have a handout that I give out on how to recall and retell any joke you ever hear. So if somebody's interested in that, they can just email izzy@izzyg.com. I'd love to stay connected, answer any questions, or see if it could be helpful.
Very nice. And I want to thank you for that. I want to, you have a quote on your website. Humor, imagination, and playfulness are powerful resources for humans, helping us become more effective personally and professionally. And that sounds like a pretty good synopsis of your life theories.
Yeah, I'm fortunate that my quest for my own truth has led me to doing the things that are kind of fun and also that help other people. So people ask, "Are you going to retire?" I go, "From what?" The challenge for me moving on. I just finished 30 years of the National Speakers Association, and with AATH, I was there almost at the beginning when Doug was there. The Journal of Nursing Jocularity. I've known Karen Buxman for all these 30 years. That being able to have my own search and the work that I love to do be beneficial to other people, there's no reason to retire from that. It's really a matter of reorganizing time and focus and spreading the word.
Yes. And can you tell us how improv is the new mindfulness?
Well, the mindfulness is about staying present and focusing on one thing at a time. And it turns out that that's what improv is also. People think that improv people they think fast and they're funny and they're smarter. It really is that they don't think very much at all. And they act on what the structure of the game is. So in the game called One Word at a Time, which is a one-word story that people build in sequence, all you need to focus on is the next word. You don't have to, if you start thinking a good word, bad word, help, hinder, I didn't like that, that slows you down. If it's your turn and you go a bagel, that's it. So in improv, that's called a point of concentration. What's the smallest bit of information I need to focus on in order to move forward towards my goal? In one word at a time, it's the next word. This is the metaphorical equivalent of focusing on your breath. So in mindfulness, you're taught, okay, whenever you're distracted, go back to the breath. The breath is your point of concentration. In improv, the game of the structure of the game is your point of concentration. So that's something that I think is helpful. And improvisers are always in the present.
Right, because what I was going to say too, in overwhelm, right? When we have a lot to do and a lot to get done and to focus on the end result, when you break it down to one task at a time, one piece of the task at a time, that overwhelm can go away. And then if you're improving through each task at a time, you've taken away the tension and you've gotten more present, become more present. So
yeah, so you go from overwhelmed to whelm, which is you don't want to go to underwhelm because that's no good. Overwhelm is no good. So it must mean that whelm is the desired state, right?
right.
It makes sense to me, and
Absolutely.
it really is all about that focus. Similar to people who teach you how to organize yourself. Priority, do one thing at a time. The Pomodoro effect, that 20 minutes, put 20 minutes to just focus on it. So it's not that different from mindfulness. It's not that different from point of concentration. It's a universal truth that multitasking is not that beneficial.
Yeah. Also found that the Venn diagrams of improv with other uh, other disciplines, it's incredible. I haven't found anything that improv makes worse, or
Yeah.
anything that can't be improved with a more with an improv mindset.
uh, yeah, yeah, exactly. In fact, in the coaching, the applied improv for coaches work that I'm doing with Angie Alexander, we came up with the Venn diagram of the applied improv for coaching is in the overlap between improv, coaching, and facilitation. So as a coach, you become a facilitator and you use the improv to build the relationships and your own personal abilities to stand out in your profession. But you're right, Jim Bob. The Venn diagram, it shows the relevance. I guess the only thing of improv where I can't see necessarily helpful is if you're the person who draws the lane lines on an interstate. If you drive that truck that
Yeah,
that
it's got to be
makes
in one
makes
lane.
the lines.
Can't have
Oh
anything
yeah,
over
I'm
the
going to
left.
go over there. No, I'm going to go over there. So
Can you
that would be a good suggestion for a sketch.
Yeah,
yeah, no
that's a what
kidding.
if. You know, in the,
Yeah, what if? Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Um, can you tell us about your app?
Yeah, Improv for You has 10 games that that has the instructions for them, and it's free, and you can download it. And when you're at a party, at a bar, you can choose one of the games and play with your friends. This project I'm working on now, Sponto Time, is a card deck that has the same principles. You pull some cards, they will give you prompts for a certain game, and then you could play the game. So the app is one of the ways that I'm hoping to bring improv games to make it simple for people to participate and also and to know how to do it. And you never play the same improv game twice. So you can play these same 10 games over and over again, different people or even the same people. You're never the same person twice in that game.
That's brilliant. And how what's the difference between Sponto Time and the app?
The app is a downloadable. Sponto Time is going to be a deck of cards, prompts with there's a video going to be you're going to be able to see the games played. We're videoing them, and it's going to be sold more as a game. It seems that card deck games are very popular now. So I'm going to see how that would work. I'm working with a collaborator, and there's a website called the Game Crafter, I think, where you can actually it's print on demand. You can upload your designs and make it yourself.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And who's your audience for the games and for the app?
The audience is anyone who is inspired to play more improv games and wants to have it handy and available. And the audience, we haven't even thought of a specific audience. We'll market it the same way I market most of my work, is just writing about it and getting people out. There's a certain, in the same way that I think yoga was maybe 30, 40 years ago, mindfulness was 10 years ago, when Dan Goleman started emotional intelligence. There are certain things that meander through the universe that make sense because their timing is right. And I think the timing is right for this. So people are doing it anyway, improvising, humor. They're really drawn to needing more humor and fun. Science, the neuroscience shows the importance of play for neuroplasticity, that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. The brain stuff that I've been reading, and there are a couple of excellent podcasts. One is the Huberman Lab, and the other one, which is on NPR, The Hidden Brain. It's called The Hidden Brain. There's a lot of research that shows that these concepts about humor, creativity, improv do affect different parts of the brain, and that the brains can make new connections. So there's a certain neuroplasticity. I just was listening to a radio broadcast of a violinist who was undergoing a brain surgery, where she asked her doctor if she could keep playing the violin during the brain surgery so the surgeon could see which parts of the brain were affected by her playing, so they wouldn't go to that part of the brain, so she wouldn't lose the ability to play.
Oh,
So there's just some amazing stuff going on. And the exciting thing for most of us is that I could see is that the more you play, the more you're able to develop these new neural pathways while you're having fun. And when you play, my theory is the way you play is the way you are in real life. Somehow as adults, we drop our act, we drop our shield when we're playing. And if we're competitive, we'll be competitive with a 5-year-old playing Go Fish. You know, we may not act on that competition, but we're going to feel it. Hey, they turned around, I could win. But if you can take the time and the courage to observe your behavior while you play, you will gain a big insight into how you relate to the rest of your life, relationships and work and so forth. So that's exciting for me, and being able to map those neural pathways, the stuff being done with brains, with brain research, I think is as transformational as DNA was 20 years ago. It's going to change everything. You know, one of the things about getting cancer is that you feel obligated to educate people because they don't really know how to respond to you. So one of the things I noticed when I had prostate cancer, one of the things I noticed was that people tend to mix up the words prostate and prostrate. So they would say, oh, you have prostate cancer. I go, no, it's prostate, because it's my mission to educate people. You had prostate cancer. No, it's prostate. Finally, after a while, being the improviser, I said, I just have to do a yes and I have to accept it. So one day somebody comes up to me and says, you have prostate cancer, right? I said, yes, I do. And now I can't lie down.
That's a good one. And that does happen all the time. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, so more ways to yes and the situation and find humor in the everyday.
And the example of this when I do the cancer program is to point out that we're not making fun of cancer. We're making fun of the human beings who have to react to it. And that's one of the points in the resilient caregiver. You bringing joy and laughter into your life for your own self-care does not diminish the seriousness of the situation. It just recognizes the truth about the way human beings are. So that's the important part.
And the humor can be healing, right?
The humor can be healing, if only that it stops the downward slide of negative thinking and the depression and the seriousness and the helplessness. I mean, one of the functions of humor is to avert helplessness. If you look at humor during the Holocaust, it's very much, or any situation, but I've studied humor in of the Holocaust, the Jewish humor. That's what I grew up with, but also it's a wonderful connection to how oppressed people keep hope. I mean, if you look at Afro-Americans, maybe it's the music, but for a lot of the Middle East, the European folks, it was humor, because it's the oral tradition. And so there's a great story about in the 30s, these two Jews are sitting and reading a newspaper, and one of them notices his friend is reading the Nazi propaganda rag Der Stürmer, and he says, how could you be reading that junk? That's crazy. Why aren't you reading our paper that tells us about our lives? And his friend says, look, in this paper, we have all the money, we run everything, we're so powerful. This is the world I want to believe in. I read our paper, things are terrible. Who wants to hear that, you know? So
very good, very good.
So it's really about, humor in that case is about hopefulness.
Yes, wonderful.
I was in a call earlier today. I was talking with someone who was helped evacuate people from earthquakes. And what she would do is she would tell jokes to the people as they were being transported to the hospital. And it's like, well, why are you doing that? She says, well, one thing, it helps the person, because if I can get them to laugh, it will actually lower their blood pressure.
Yeah, the physical connection.
And it just floored me.
Well, that's the difference. I think one of the missions we have in our business, in our world, is to get people to understand that you're not laughing at the seriousness of the situation. You're laughing at the human condition in that situation. And most people don't get that. They think, well, you can't laugh at cancer. Well, we're not laughing at cancer. We're laughing at human beings. And the reality of the situation. So that's really what my program is about for cancer survivors, is putting in humor principles into my experience. And that's what I hope the caregivers would do, is put into, and that's why people need to understand how humor is structured. That's not just about jokes, that it's about recognizing incongruities, that the body will, when you laugh naturally or you overhear something, that's funny, and that's the connector. Even just things you notice. But I bought a Hyundai 2 years ago, a blue Hyundai. I never even thought about Hyundais very much. Now that I have a blue Hyundai, I can't believe how many blue Hyundais there are in the supermarket parking lot. I didn't know there were that many. It never occurred to me. So, things like that, people get, oh yeah, that's a smile. And that's all you need sometimes.
Absolutely. Wow. And again, congratulations on being on the other side.
Thank you.
And I'm so glad that do you feel like the experience helped shape some of who you became during and after?
I'm not sure. It certainly gave me a new topic to market. That's the yes and. It shaped me in that it forced me to look at things I ordinarily wouldn't look at. I was not the kind that would face those things. In fact, I had watchful waiting, which is a form of prostate cancer, and I'm a procrastinator. So it took me 2 years from the time I was diagnosed till the time I actually had some surgery. To answer your question, and I'll have to think about that some more. I appreciate that. I think it was that there are only so many things you can pay attention to. And once I started paying attention, I started noticing something. And because I had this humor experience, I began to see where the humor might lie into it. So I would think that it was a yin and yang thing. My history helped shape the experience, and my experience helped shape my life about this.
Thank you, Izzy Gesell, for being on Laughbox, for being a double guest.
Paduskaraka barata boom. That's gibberish for it's been a lot of fun. I loved having this conversation with you both and everybody listening.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us for episode 100 with returning guests Izzy Gesell and our hosts Jim Bob Williams and Katie B. Thank you very much.
This has been Laughbox, brought to you by the Association of Applied and Therapeutic Humor. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Laughbox is a production of the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. Visit us online at www.aath.org. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Music by Gary Rubio. For more information, www.garyrubiomusic.com.
And we'll see you next time.